You've packed your bags perfectly, made it through traffic, and arrived at the airport. Then you look at the departure board. Your flight to Athens is canceled. You are suddenly standing in a massive, chaotic terminal, and you have to figure out your exact next move. Memorizing grammar rules and textbook vocabulary for suitcase or airplane won't solve this problem. When you are staring down a 4-hour delay and have to negotiate a solution at a crowded check-in desk, theoretical language preparation falls apart. This gap between classroom learning and real-world application has a measurable impact. Roughly 65% of international students experience severe culture shock during their first few months abroad. This shock occurs because knowing the literal translation of a word is only half the battle. What is often missing is functional English, the invisible cultural rules that dictate how, when, and where to actually deploy those words with native speakers. Survival and success on your Matura exam requires moving beyond the physical items in your suitcase to the communication strategies and cultural intelligence needed to navigate the globe. The first level of surviving abroad begins before you even board a plane. It starts with the specific B2 level vocabulary you use to describe your destination. Most travelers rely on generic adjectives, calling a city nice or busy. A precise speaker uses a word like touristy. This describes an environment packed with visitors, endless queues, and cheap souvenirs, separated from authentic local life. To find a more authentic experience, you must alter your language. You seek out a vibrant neighborhood full of local energy, or you look for ancient ruins to explore historical architecture in peace. Travelers often use the idiom heading off the beaten track. This means intentionally leaving the standard commercial routes to find something unspoiled, like a remote nature reserve that humans haven't altered yet. The words you choose act as a filter. By mastering these specific descriptive terms, you dictate the type of physical environments you will experience on your journey. Let's assume you are back at the airport and your travel plans are falling apart. This requires the second level of survival, making functional requests under intense pressure. When you are exhausted by a cancellation, your instinct might be to fire off a direct, demanding question. You ask the gate agent, "Why delay?" To an airline employee instructed to manage thousands of frustrated travelers, this bluntness usually triggers a defensive, unhelpful response. You need to wrap your request in what sociolinguists call polite buffers. These act as your social armor. They soften the impact of your words while still clearly communicating your needs. Instead of barking a command, you use modal verbs to construct a softer inquiry. You transform a demand, like, "Give me a hotel voucher," into a question. "Is there any chance I could get a voucher for the delay?" In a busy airport, these subtle grammatical shifts serve a practical purpose. Effectively using modal verbs determines whether you secure a meal voucher from a stressed agent or are left waiting without any support. Once you finally leave the terminal and head out into the bustling city, you hit a new wall. This brings us to the third and final level of survival, navigating the unwritten rules of cultural politeness. The most common trap for new speakers is the "I want" mistake. If you directly translate your thoughts from your native language when ordering a coffee, you might say, "I want a coffee." In English, this comes across as an aggressive command rather than a request. There is a simple fix to this directness dilemma. The golden rule for any transaction in English is to substitute your direct command with a specific question structure. "Can I have a coffee, please?" But politeness is not universal. In the United States, the culture highly values forthrightness and efficiency. This transactional nature extends to dining. Leaving a 15 to 20% tip is an absolute expectation, serving as a significant chunk of a worker's income. Hop across the Atlantic to the UK and the rules flip. The British prioritize subtlety, often using self-deprecating humor to maintain social harmony. In a formal setting, dining is ruled by strict decorum. This includes placing your fork and knife perfectly parallel on the plate when finished. These details matter. By understanding the specific cultural ethos of a country, whether it's American efficiency or British subtlety, you prevent accidental faux pas that can instantly ruin a social interaction. Stepping into these new environments is intimidating. However, the fear of making a cultural faux pas should not hold you back. These missteps are shared human experiences that help you build resilience in unfamiliar territory. To actively practice this resilience, try keeping a journal of your small cultural wins. Document the first time you successfully use a phrase like, "Would you mind?" to negotiate a request, or the first time you navigate a tricky menu without reverting to your native language. This practice builds your cultural intelligence. It is the ability to recognize and adapt to different invisible rules, effectively communicating your needs without abandoning your own personal identity in the process. When you understand the logic behind these rules, like American forthrightness or British harmony, the environment becomes predictable. You can navigate the chaos of travel with the confidence that comes from knowing exactly how the cultural mechanism works. Mastering this functional language allows you to move through the world as an active participant rather than an outsider. It provides the tools to build connections and find your place in any community you visit.